number 3/6/UDAC/1496/CD/5657 of the 1st of July 1996, signed at Libreville, that created the Customs Professional Corps and fixed the statute of licensed customs experts. In fact, Article 1 of that treaty defines whom a customs expert is supposed to be. Article 11 thereof states that a licensed customs expert shall assist the lawyer before the court during litigation process. Article 14, Your Excellency, states that it is forbidden for a licensed customs expert to represent clients before the customs administration thereof of the finance bill that is under review, has made this licensed customs expert to be both an expert as far as customs issues are concerned and equally a lawyer. How is it possible for such a customs expert, Your Excellency, to practice as both a lawyer and a customs expert, whereas the UDAC Act I've just cited forbids such an expert from representing clients before the customs administration? That is as far as the upstream litigation process is concerned. That is non-contentious. Mr. Minister of Finance, I may not be the bâtonnier, I may not be the Bar Council president here, but suffice it to say, the question I'm going to ask with regard to the present finance bill has to do with about 5,000 lawyers that are outside there, performing the functions of advocacy as the duty has been granted to them by the Liberty Laws of 1919, which makes them to enjoy the monopoly of representation before legally constituted authorities or authorities before which any litigation like tax or custom litigation take place. It's supposed to be of general interest, but I have, and the lawyers of this country, they have the impression that these bureaus introduced to favor customs experts and tax experts involved in litigation as lawyers for clients before tax administrators who are in active service. They see in this law an attempt to create employment for tomorrow's ex-employees of the Ministry of Finance in all the domains. We are waiting. Maybe next year, another financial domain will be extracted from the Ministry of Finance and experts will be created again. So much so that at the end of the day, Your Excellency, all the ex-employees of the Ministry of Finance shall have an employment after service. Don't you see in this particular case, Your Excellency, that there is going to be some, what they call in French, trafic d'influence, whereby an ex-official of the Ministry of Finance will be appearing for a client before the tax administrator. Is he not going to be in a situation to influence the tax administrator in active service over the plight of his client, over tax control? I don't know whom you... Nobody has given you my... Let me land. I'm on my feet. I'm a representative of the people. Could you allow me land, sir? You are a senator like me. Let me land. Could you allow me land? I have not landed yet with my questions. Could you allow me land? I'm living from a region. Let me share my difficulties with you. I'm not living a normal life of a senator in my region. I'm internally displaced. And I move over. Living is a privilege. And to die is a rule in the Northwest and Southwest region. That's why we are all becoming internally displaced. Dear senators, we have situations whereby the administrators, they are giving a report of what happens in the field. And they tell the military, I like Cameroonians to see you acting the way you act. But I'm talking to, we come from all from the entire country. And it's my duty to inform my colleagues what is happening to my region. We have a situation, he says to the military, il faut continuer avec le ratissage. That ratissage means destroy everything to the ground level. That's why you have destruction of body. Il faut continuer avec le ratissage. We have a situation in Noni where people dug a grave. And they were asked to enter into it, and they were shot dead and buried inside a grave. A whole village in Bamukumbi, Balikuma subdivision, has been razed down. Balikumbat, where I come from, a quarter was swept by fire, and somebody escaping from fire was shot and thrown into the fire. A whole quarter was brought down. I wrote complaint about the military, and I was told that if they don't investigate, what will I do? In Batu, after killing a lady, a landmine was placed under the corpse. And when the family came to take the corpse for burial, it exploded, killing more and wounding others. That's the situation we're living in Northwest region. And it is important for me to let my colleague senators understand. Very important.
The Barrister
of order by SDF Senator KEMENDE Henry on the incompatibility of the post of interim president, Elvis Senator.
The person of Chief Mukete is the board chairperson of KEMENDE, except he has resigned, of which he has a duty to show us his resignation letter in that capacity in this honorable house.
The same interim bureau has one of the youngest senator whose age is also contested for proper verification.
The same person who was the youngest 5 years ago is coming as the youngest, whereas she is supposed to be more than 45. More than 45. But we have somebody, Ngamonore, who is supposed to be less than of the SDF group. He has been disqualified.
Guest in this edition of the program is Barrister Henry Gamsey KEMENDE of the Social Democratic Front SDF political party. He is a member of the Cameroon's upper house of parliament. He is a senator. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
Now, more than 4 decades have elapsed since Cameroon moved from the Federal Republic to the United Republic and then later to the Republic of Cameroon. What's your take on the unitary state of the nation today, which is under the threat of the Anglophone crisis?
Well, if you ask me about the state of the unitary state of our country, I would say it is under, I can say it's in the hospital. I could say it's actually threatened, and we need to give it a special diagnosis in order to come out of the present crisis. In fact, if you ask my opinion personally, I would say on 20th May, suppose we insist on celebrating it. If that celebration is actually anything to go by, I will propose that the flag of this country should fly at half-mast, because on a daily basis Cameroonians are dying in the Anglophone and in English-speaking regions of this country.
Now, what do you mean by the unitary state of Cameroon is in the hospital?
What I mean by it being in the hospital is that it is sick. Our unitary state is actually at a crossroad. I can't really say, we can actually do all the slogans, unitary state, you can talk about the united and all one not integration. But then, the truth about it is that it is far more than just being a slogan. If you live in the English-speaking regions of this country, if you come from the northwest and southwest, and you are somebody whose ears are on the ground, and who live some of the experiences, you will say, in fact, we are living in two different countries. Because I am presently in Douala, and I was in Yaoundé some few days back, and each time I live in those two regions, Yaoundé and Douala, or Littoral and the center region, and I go back to Northwest, I find that as I'm entering the Northwest, I find myself entering a different zone altogether, where the society is actually, you live without knowing what your tomorrow will look like. So what I'm saying is, if you are in Douala, you don't feel anything, you don't feel that anything is wrong with the country. If you are in Yaoundé, you don't feel that anything is wrong with the country, but get to Southwest, get to the Northwest, you will know that this country, we are living two in one. You might have even seen the governor of the Southwest going to install the SGO at certain places. He's wearing bulletproofs. Where else do the governor go somewhere in this country with bulletproofs on, dressed like a military man? And it can only be in Southwest.
With regards to what is happening today in the southwest and northwest regions of the country, some Cameroonians here in the city of Douala we interviewed prior to the National Unity Day celebration said unity had long left Cameroon. Unity is no longer existing.
They may be right. They may be right. And they are right because of maybe they monitor what is happening in the northwest and southwest regions. But then I take it as a challenge. If only the authorities were to understand what that person means by saying that unity is no longer exists or is no longer a reality. I take that if you are a nationalist, if you are patriotic, you take that as a challenge and to ask the question, what went wrong or what is actually going wrong? How can we go about it?
I was exactly going to ask you what has weakened or broken the unity of Cameroon. Is it the manner in which the country became united, or what happened after 20th of May 1972? What has been happening in Cameroon?
Is a manner in which we came together to live as one country. You see, when we fail to acknowledge certain facts of history, that's where we fail right at the very beginning. It must be acknowledged by Cameroonians that this is one of those unique countries in the world that don't celebrate an Independence Day. You understand? This is one of those unique countries in the world that don't have an Independence Day. And why that question? Why is it unique? It's because we want to lie to ourselves about what stands as our Independence Day. I think it is in record, and there's no way you can do to scrape that off the record, that what today some people call as La République du Cameroun, they had their independence on the 1st of January 1960. And then, by then the map, it was not as it is today. Those are all facts. The map of the country wasn't as it is today. Today we have the map reshaped. We have a different map, which shows now that the portion of land that got independence on the 1st of January 1960 has changed. That is, the map has now protruded leftward, which means another territory was added. And that territory that was added was what used to be referred to as Southern Cameroons, which became West Cameroon, and became Northwest and Southwest, and today is referred to as Anglophone Cameroon. So we have to go back to the drawing board and see the evolution from when La République du Cameroun had its independence on the 1st of January 1960, when it got reunified, or unified as some people will put it, with what used to be Southern Cameroons, to form the Federal Republic of Cameroon. What went wrong? What was written? What were the negotiations? And if we discover that along the line there was some manifested bad faith, there is nothing wrong in going back to correct what went wrong, to make sure that we live together. Let living together be actually a matter of practical experience rather than being a slogan. Let us go together. Let's not be ashamed. In fact, after all, what happened in 1960, 1961, 1972 did not end history. History continues. Let history be written that after something went wrong in 1961, and when something went wrong in 1972, in fact, sometime in 2017 or 2018, it was corrected when there was a clamor. In fact, what I see some people try to do is they want to stop history. Events must continue, and events have to reshape our history. And if it happens that we have to go back to the drawing board and correct certain things that were done wrongly, I think it is but for the interest of the entire nation to do that.
And concerning 20th of May 1972 in particular, I listened to a veteran journalist in Kumbu, for me Adrian, condemning the manner in which the country moved from the Federal Republic to the United Republic, indicating that during the referendum, for example, the ballot paper had just we or yes.
In fact, those are
the same thing.
Yes, those are facts. We must agree that along the line, somebody thought he was pulling a fast one on the other person. But History will always have it that if you do something fraudulently, it will one day come to resurface. And one thing that fraud, time never runs against anything that was fraudulently done. We need only to be very honest to ourselves, because we cannot build a country on falsehood, my brother. There is no gainsaying the fact. Some people now, if they are asked now, and that's what actually some people, if they also reshape the country's policies, they will say, oh no, speaking English or French was actually out of convenience. The English-speaking regions, they choose to speak English, and the French-speaking regions choose to speak French. And they would not like to attach any history to the speaking French and English in this country, but which is false. We must know that we never spoke English west of the Mongo out of our wish. Neither did the Francophones speak French out of their wish. Some people want to rely on German colonization. They want to believe in German colonization rather than English and French colonization. Why do you choose one against the other? All of them were colonizers. And the ones that have left their impact on us, which is actually causing all the problems that we call Anglophone problem, Anglophone, Francophone problem, they are the ones who left us recently. And they were the English and the French after the defeat of the Germans. So why not look at what happened yesterday, which is having an impact on our lives? And you want to look at what existed before. Even before the Germans came, Africa was one. Africa was one, and you could say Africa was one and indivisible. Until when the Germans came and divided us up according to their wishes, according to their whims and caprices, divided us the way we are. If somebody was advocating for us to go back to German Cameroon, we must go back to Chad, go back to Central Africa, go back to all these other countries where the German territory have partially been devolved onto, to bring all those territories back. And then why talk of even German colonization? When before even Germans came, we were one Africa. Why not talk of African unity and let us be one before the colonizers came? Why choose German and ignore the English and French? The English I'm speaking now is because of English colonization or the trusteeship agreement. The French that is spoken by the Francophones is because of the trusteeship agreement, which made German colonies to devolve, to be shared between the French and the English. And then afterwards, we are even talking about reunification. We can talk about reunification, because after everything, cannot be reunification as such, because by the time the Germans were here, we were never even managing ourselves. We never even knew exactly who were those politicians in French Cameroon and who were the politicians in West Cameroon or in the Southern Cameroon. So actually, we must, we belong in our party, the Social Democratic Front, we believe in the present situation, but then that we should go back to the drawing board and see what went wrong along the line. Why should we say we are one and indivisible? Yet we cannot feel the pains of the other. There's one commandment in the Bible that I believe in very strongly. Do unto others as you want others to do unto you. Between the Francophone and myself, there's no difference. There are some who are shorter than me. There are some who are less intelligent than me. There are some whom I'm intelligent more than them. So we are all human beings. But then we have something that we don't understand about ourselves. What you are doing to me, is it normal? If I were to do it to you, if they do it to you, will you be comfortable? Let us go to the drawing board and see where the shoe pinches for the Anglophone who is complaining. And let's see how to regularize that situation.
Rectify.
In the first place, Mr. Babila, to begin with, there was a constitution that we know as a federal constitution. At least history is something, I have a lot of passion for history, because history makes us to realize where we are coming from, to find ourselves where we are. And then it determines also where we are going to. If you don't know where you are coming from to find out, which determines where you are, you will not know where you are going to. So I have a passion for history, and historical facts don't deceive. What is it, that constitution that brought us, with which we came to live together as in a federal Republic of Cameroon? The Article 47 was to the effect that the federal structure of the state shall never be tampered with. And that Article 47 was meant, or the federal constitution as a whole, was put in place to protect the Southern Cameroons that came into the Union to form West Cameroon, in order to make sure that tomorrow their minority status should not be taken for granted. Because it was not an issue of minority majority at the time we came together. That's why there were two states. They never said the state of East Cameroon was supposed to be called a super state because it had many persons, or the land mass was bigger, and the state of West Cameroon was to become an inferior state because it had a very small land mass, or the number of persons living there. It was meant to protect. That's why the federation was all about. And then when in 1972 it was being tampered with, instead of consulting the people whom the federal constitution was intended to protect, they instead consulted the whole nation in the National Assembly, or in that famous referendum. which turned out, it is, but it is, as a lawyer, I would see that as injustice, because taking a majority to vote with a minority over a minority question, because I consider the federation issue to have been a minority issue, to safeguard the interests of the minority. So to have actually taken it now to a larger sphere where there will be an obvious majority to vote for, that has been tailored already to vote for it, it was actually downplaying on the minority right of the West Cameroonians, of the Anglophones. So in fact, that is where something went wrong. And then have spoken. If you get into the nitty-gritties of how it has been evolving from the federation into unitary state to the Republic, to Cameroon that we are in now, or to the Republic of Cameroon that we are in now, you will discover that there was some sort of something that was put in place to be unfolded, that unfolded logically.
Prepared assimilation.
Prepared unfolding. You can call it assimilation, but I can tell you, for instance, if you come to, after leaving from the high school, let me just share my experience with you. After leaving the high school, barely conjugating the verb avoir and être in French, I find myself in a university classroom where I have a Frenchman, I can say a Frenchman because he was teaching me a subject, in not French for beginners, not teaching me French language, but teaching me a subject, a major subject that I have to pass in order to move to the next class, teaching me in French language. Where has it existed like that over the world, anywhere in the world? In every country, even in Germany, in England, France, when you are a non-speaker of that language, you come to undertake a course in that particular language, you are, first of all, given a language course, and you are put through a language proficiency test, and they see that your language power is such that you can learn your threat in that language before they now put you in a classroom to be taught in that language. But in Cameroon, we had a bizarre situation whereby you come to a university. It happened to both Francophones and Anglophones. Whether it happened to the Francophones or to the Anglophones, I say it was wrong. Whosoever conceived that policy to put in one class, Francophones and Anglophones, without measuring their level of understanding French or English and teaching them a language which causes embarrassment on the other party, the person conceived that policy with a hidden agenda and negatively for the nation.
No.
And then you also have another scenario. Let me just unfold to you, bring to you all the scenarios. There was one time, we have the Polytechnic in Yaoundé. Polytechnic existed for how long? For many decades. As a French, purely Francophone institution. No Anglophone could dare step leg into that place. But yet it was sponsored, it was built, it was being sponsored or run from the taxpayers' money. That's taxpayers, both Anglophones and Francophones. But then the institution was only meant for Francophones. What do you have in mind when it comes to that? And everything, syllabus in that school, even to write an entrance examination and pass you into it, they consider the Francophone syllabus to the advanced level. The Anglophone syllabus was never considered. Neither was anybody to even mark and even teach in that school in English.
And those are some of the
elements. There are many of them. And in teaching the worst of it, what I came to learn, before even the creation of the Technical Teachers Training College in Bambili, the Higher Technical Teachers Training College in Bambili. We only had one Technical Teachers Training College, except in Douala here. They used to train teachers, Anglophones and Francophone teachers, to go and teach Anglophone students. And they were taught in French. A teacher, a trained teacher, is taught a subject in French to go back and teach in English. It's a normal. Where does it exist that way? That is why, and they will tell us tomorrow we don't have French, we don't have English teachers in the technical department. They will tell us tomorrow when Polytechnic was only meant for the Francophones for years, for decades. Then they will tell us tomorrow we don't have technical students. In the University of Yaoundé, as the only university that existed at that time, there was no science faculty for the Anglophones, because you go to the science faculty from your GC advanced level, even if you had how many points at the level of the GC, you go there, you meet completely an embarrassment. The syllabus is completely tailored not to take you from the advanced level to the university. So in fact, there are many of those scenarios like that was actually meant to breed anger in the Anglophone, and that's how it has been boiling until through our strike, which was actually we never intended it to take this magnitude. But through our strike, it is laudable. It's laudable, but much of it is sloganeering. Much of it is in the slogan form. We expect concrete actions on the ground. Concrete actions. Let's say, for instance, if the government were to be wise, as I'm of the opposition SDF, if the government were to be wise and want to live for the betterment of the Cameroonians, wants to stay there for long, they would have been listening to the opposition. Listen to what the opposition is saying. Take their ideas. Implement them. If they are good, just let them just pass one test. Good and bad. If it is good, take it. Nobody will blame you for taking something which is good because it's an ideology. If only you never knew of it. But if you knew of it, that is something which is good compared to what is existing, take the idea as being good. Implement it. Would that not be killing the opposition indirectly? We have been complaining year in, year out in the Social Democratic Front about the transparency at the polls. The chairman of the party, His Excellency John Frontier, has written several times. They have made written memos. They have even proposed programs. There's an economic salvation program proposed by NESPRO, and there is everything about elections and monitoring. We are human beings. There is no way by which you can do biometric registration partially. Do it completely and see it through. The way it obtains in country A will obtain in country B in the same manner. And you define the rules. Let the rules show transparency. Wherever there's an obstacle along the way, let us learn how to overcome those obstacles. Let us not make laws that instead take into consideration what could be obstacles. Let's make laws that will meet obstacles on the way. And at that moment, we look on ways to overcome the obstacle towards the implementation of that law, which we consider good. That is what we need to do. Transparency at the polls. Look at even the election that we recently conducted. Which is cheaper? If the country has been crying of poverty in not to conduct it, why not make single ballot? That's something which the SDF has been clamoring on for the past how many decades? Single ballot. Double round presidential elections. Because somebody, as it stands, if they have about 100 presidential candidates, with 5%, somebody can be the ruler of this country, can be the president of this country, which is absurd. You don't find that anywhere in the world.
With problem of legitimacy.
Legitimacy, but he will tell you that it's legal because the constitution provides so, because he has majority of 5%, and he will rule the country, but which is actually unjust, undemocratic, and actually it is not moving our democracy further as long as we claim to be practicing advanced democracy. Single ballot is something which is meant to be cost effective. Instead of making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 ballot papers, which is costly for the nation, make one so that somebody just thumbprints on the space provided for that. And the issue of coming out with ballot papers, which is an electoral malpractice contained in the law, that you come out with the other voters, the voter cards that you have not voted, you come and show and you are given monies. It has been brought to the knowledge of the authorities. What are you doing about it? Instead of learning how to go about this proposal of a single ballot, they consider it as burning too low to accept that. But meanwhile, it's a good proposal, and it's applied elsewhere. It has been applied even by the SDF in its own local election.
The unit.
Disappointment that we used to envy ourselves. We're very, very jealous of the peace, of being an island of peace in a turbulent waters. But what I am now seeing is that what obtained elsewhere has met us very, very abruptly, and we never expected that. And I've seen how a country glides gradually into a civil war situation. In fact, as one of our famous artists, Fuakom from Norwest and Boyo particularly, has put it, les choses qui arrivent aux autres commencent déjà à m'arriver. That actually what we used to see at other people's portion is arriving to us, and that's why
in Libya,
Central Africa, Ethiopia, everywhere, so that we have seen it arriving, and I can actually give a narration of what it takes, the stages it takes, how dialogue fails, and we glide into a civil war situation. What we are having now is actually a civil war, or an undeclared civil war, because some people say we are not really in a regular war situation. But what is happening? We are living in a wartime situation. And in that war situation, I can say it is unfortunate for the common man, because they are caught between the hammer and the nail. You see, and we thought, I will keep saying it, we are of the opposition. I'm of the opposition, Social Democratic Front. We don't need to have romance with the government over some of the mishaps that are going on. We are duty bound to screen on the government action in handling the crisis. And I would rather say the government, as far as their interventions towards fighting the Amber Boys, as they are called, is actually the most irregular. I would say before they come to fish the Amber Boys in any particular locality, as a government, which interest is to protect the population, because the population is supreme, there would have been a signal as to what is going to happen and where actions will be taken to preserve the population, because that is the golden egg that is laying the goose that is laying the golden egg. You get to the point. You get the point. It's the population represent the hen that is laying a golden egg, and the golden egg is what is used to fuel the war on the part of the government, because the taxes that we pay indirectly contribute in buying the arms which are supposed to be used to bring order to bear. Then, if you know how long it takes to bring up an individual, to bring up a human being to maturity as you and I we are, it takes, by the time a human being matures, to about 20 years, to about 35 years, 30 years. In fact, much resources have been put in him. And then there have been a lot of sacrifices. And then it's a tax industry for the government. So the more you destroy them, the more you are destroying the state. So everything would have been...
And many have died.
Many have died. Civilians and military. Our military, they were not meant to fight a war that I consider stupid like this.
And
there are some countries that for one reason or other have suspended celebrations of national days. What is wrong in us? Instead of pretending, what is wrong in us suspending, even on a national day, what is wrong in us convening a conference whereby we can sit together and discuss this issue? That's a national day event, because our unity is at stake. Our unity is threatened. So what is wrong in us on 20 May sitting down instead of celebrating? We now call for a conference which could now revisit what made us united. What brought us together? Honestly speaking, there is no national day, because the national day is 20th of May, where federation was abolished. And when the federation was abolished, the federation was first of all put in place to protect the Anglophone community that are now dying in their numbers. There is nothing wrong in us coming on that national day, whereby the federation that brought in the Anglophones was abolished. There's nothing wrong in going to sit back and revisit what went wrong along the line and coming out with a different solution. In fact, by the way, as far as National Day is concerned, even to my mind, in my own opinion, I consider National Day to be the day of this present Cameroon, to be the day that the Anglophones joined, or the Southern Cameroons joined La Republique to become one and united country. That is to be the national day. Take the case of the prodigal son in the Bible. I think the day that the prodigal son came back, the father killed, it was just almost like a holiday in the family. The father killed the largest bull to welcome that prodigal son back. So if La Republique got its independence on the 1st of October 1960, without their brothers of Southern Cameroons, the day that their brothers came back, is that not a national day? That is the day that this map of Cameroon was remade to put this portion, to make it the present day map. Is that not a great day? As I said earlier over this on this program about the Senate, I still maintain my opinion that if I were to have my way, if I were met the president of this country, and the Senate has to continue playing the role it is playing, I will scrap it the next day. It is not because I'm a member thereof. It is not because I'm a senator that I should support the fact that the Senate seems to be an idle house. Honestly speaking, I'm yet to see a situation where the Senate rereads a bill and makes a major amendment to the bill as studied and approved by the lower house. I'm yet to see a situation where the upper house really plays a role of reviewing what the lower house had done and bringing alterations to bear over such a bill, over the bills that are forwarded to us as having been adopted by the lower house, for us as elderly members of parliament, to bring our experience to bear there by reviewing it positively in favor of Cameroonians. I'm yet to leave that type of situation. What we have, on the contrary, is that of a repeat process. What I observe takes place in the Senate is a repetition of what is done at the lower house. We must be honest at one moment or the other to Cameroonians. We must be honest to tell them what is happening, what is going wrong with their country, in order that when the time shall come, because I think it is not going to be long we'll be facing a moment of reckoning in this country. Whether we like it or not, there is going to be a transition. A transition is looming by any moment from now. One only God alone can determine when exactly it will happen. But you can be sure about it, Mr. Leonard, that a transition is going to come. And we have to inform Cameroonians. We have to let Cameroonians understand how their institutions are functioning. In order that when that transition moment comes, they can decide favorably what they absolutely need for their Cameroonian society.
Okay. So if I get what you are saying, the Senate is a waste. Is that what you think? The government is wasting money?
I don't really want to put it categorically that way. Maybe the intention of the lawmaker, the intention of those who influence the Cameroon government or the Cameroon institutions, the existing institutions, to create the Cameroonian lawmaker to amend the constitution and insert the second house of parliament, namely the upper house of parliament as the Senate is. The people had good intentions. Maybe they wanted to see the two houses, the lower house, call it the National Assembly. They wanted to see a situation where it operates like the House of Congress, the House of Representatives, congressional representatives in America. They wanted to see the Senate playing the role that the Senate plays in the U.S. That was their ambition, where they review, where they really play the role of the upper house. Here, I can tell you, Mr. Leonard, without mincing words, that the appellation, the description that we have as the upper house is just protocol.
Yeah, you say
it's just a matter of protocol. That's all.
You describe the house as an idle house. Why? You go there, you don't have
we pretend we are seen to be busy. We pretend to show the Cameroonians that we are playing the role of the upper house. But I can tell you, I'm somebody who observes. When I enter somewhere, I observe and I read what takes place there with a critical eye. And when it comes to giving an advice, I want to give a reasoned advice. I want to give an advised opinion about a house. Why I say it is an idle house, because I am yet to live the experience. For these 3 years, almost 3 years that we have been in there, I'm yet to live an example whereby the upper house brings an alteration to bear on a bill that has been studied and adopted by the lower house. And I'm yet to even see a situation whereby an amendment of an adopted bill by the National Assembly is permitted to be amended, where a reflection is brought to bear over a bill that has been adopted by the lower house. At times, we seem to be incapable of bringing in a new reflection over a bill that has been adopted. And even the Constitution, Mr. Leonard, it handicaps us even. It makes us, it gives us a cosmetic function of reviewing what the National Assembly had done. Because it is stated in the Constitution, in 1996 Constitutional Amendment, the Law on Constitutional Amendment 1996, they call it a 1996 Constitution. No, we still have the 1972 Constitution as amended by the 1996 Constitutional Law, or the Law on Constitutional Amendment. What we see is that the lower house, what is there in the Constitution is that the lower house does adopt a bill. The real debate takes place and they adopt a bill. Send it to the upper house, we review. If there's an amendment there, we make it. If there's something that we need to, an opinion to need to bring to bear, which will change the position of the bill as far as it was adopted by the lower house, we bring it to bear. But then the lower house has the opportunity to choose whether to take our amendment or not, or to reject it, and send the bill for promulgation as they had earlier adopted before sending to the upper house. So then, constitutionally, we are meant to look idle. We are meant to look as if our opinion or whatever alteration we bring to bear over an adopted bill in the National Assembly has no value. On the normal circumstances, one will imagine that a bill that leaves the lower house comes to the upper house for a review. After reviewing it, if we have made any alteration to it, has to go to the president directly for promulgation. Not going back to where it came from. Then we are just making a cosmetic review of the adopted position.
What is...
The opposition is creating awareness. They are giving the best that they have. For it is said that the beautiful woman can only give the best of what she has. She cannot do more than that.
Okay.
Our being there is an eye-opener. Even if it was just one member of parliament from the opposition, it will remain an eye-opener. We make sure that things that we managed, it was made to look as an issue of a Ngumba house, is brought to bear. Like what I'm doing here now with you, Mr. Leonard, is to draw awareness of the public towards the functioning of the Senate.
The helplessness.
The helplessness of the Senate. The cosmetic role that the Senate is playing as far as the democratic process is concerned. The cosmetic role, how the intentions of the people who thought of the idea of creating the Senate have been thwarted.
Now, I'm sure you took part in voting the bill on decentralization. Yes, recently after the major national dialogue that was done early last year.
I've never stayed away from the Senate session.
Yes, but you voted on your appreciation of
when you talk about voting, when you talk about voting, at times they don't even consider necessary to even put it to vote. And if they only raise whether any objection, nothing, and they hit. Any objection, nothing, and they just keep going, because they know very well voting is of no moment. It will certainly pass because of the obvious majority, as you have said here. So at times they treat it as a non-event. The way they even hit the gravel on the table, adopted. It makes it a formality. Because they know that if you were to stop it, and when you stop the process by saying, no, let's look at this particular article again, or you see them just murmur, say, oh, no, this is what happens in the House. And then at one moment or another, you feel that you're just disturbing yourself by always trying to break the process, trying to scatter the apple cart that has been mounted. At times, we are talking about issues concerning the lives of Cameroonians. We are talking about decentralization, which is coming in at the moment that people are yearning for it, that one part of the country is at war because of the too much of centralized power, and that they have been yearning to see into it, that they are given more of the freedoms that they had enjoyed even before independence. That's what is causing this war in the Northwest and Southwest.
1 year after the voting of that bill, are you very satisfied with the process so far? The bill on decentralization.
Mr. Leonard, when you are told about decentralization, when you are told about the creation of the various houses and the spatial status and all whatnot, the question you ask yourself is, what are the duties? What are the functions of those houses that have been created to give the Northwest and Southwest special status? I'm not satisfied. If that's the question you want me to answer, I'm not satisfied, because that is not what the people bargained for. That is not what I bargained for as a people's representative. If I have to say I'm representing the people, I should say without mincing words that bill that has become law now on decentralization, I've even taken part at producing it and in both languages and making sure that people read and criticize constructively. That let it not be written, let it not be read as if it is something that they are hiding from the people. Let the people read it so that we can be constructive in our criticisms. That's the reason for which I produce, and I've made sure that I've given to a good number of councillors, and about 5 councillors, and then other colleagues of mine to have come in, produced theirs, and given to other councillors in other areas where my hands could not reach.
What is
the thing is, it's like the government is fighting with its people.
Okay.
In that code, it is as if, because somebody asks for omelette, and you serve him with bitter lemon, or he asks for omelette and you serve him with a dish of pepper prepared for him. That is not what the Cameroonian nation now wants. That is not what the people want. Oh, if I may say, the people I represent are now in Senate of the Nation, but at least we are meant to come from all of us so that we can represent the aspirations of the people closest to us. I should not go by that pronouncement that a senator of the nation or member of parliament for the nation, and you just completely forget that you come from a particular defined area. And if members of parliament don't come from that area, then you cannot say that the house is complete. So we are coming from the various areas so that we can take the aspirations of our people. We can take the feelings of our people to the places where decisions are taken, so that their opinions can be met, felt there. The people from the Northwest and Southwest regions, they want a federation.
Okay.
That's the least they want. Honestly speaking, Mr. Leonard, I must not mince words. It is not but it's because I represent a Republican Party, which manifesto, the SDF manifesto has, from the onset, stood for federation. But then, the population will represent, honestly speaking, because of the way they have treated people, the federalists, people who were clamoring for federation at the beginning. They were held, they were caught and locked up, and people have lost lives because of federation. People are out of this country, suffering, going through torture out of this country, when meanwhile they have motherland, their fatherland is there. They're out of this country because they dare to have asked for federation. As if it is a taboo, as if they can list us, they can name us countries that are practicing federation who are a failure. We instead have decentralized, we have centralized countries that are failures, that are failing their people. The people needed at least a federation. I'm sorry to say this. And honestly, for the period that the government has been dragging its feet, giving the federation, and for the hardship that the population have gone through, the killings, the burning down of villages, in fact, the number of refugees and the atrocities that have taken place in the Northwest and Southwest regions, I can be proud to tell you, I'm from ground zero. I live with the people. I can be proud to tell you that even this federation I'm talking about again, that doesn't represent their mindset any longer. They now want separation. The people are for separation. That is the truth. 99% of the populations of Northwest, or the population of Northwest and Southwest, that could be, I stand to be challenged if they do a plebiscite. Now, if they do a referendum, not a plebiscite, but a referendum, whether we want to remain, whether the Northwest and Southwest want to remain with their Francophone brothers that they joined happily in 1961, they will tell you that it is too much. They have suffered enough. They will tell you that the best answer for what we are going through now is that the parties live apart, and that they will progress better. They will do more good to their people by living apart, because living together has been bitter. Has been a bitter pill for them to support. I'm saying this, I want to be challenged. Ministers, elected officials, directors, they say it, the same thing. They know it. And they are all. And that is why I am not surprised when one very high dignitary said it. That generally, even generalizing everything, that Anglophones are traitors. He meant it. It is true.
Okay.
This is their mindset.
Okay, that's their mindset.
Just go to the court.
No, I have the code.
Yes, just go to the court and look what powers the regional council, the regional House of Representatives have got, or what makes Northwest and Southwest special status. Tell me what powers they have got. Can you imagine what they describe as powers? Powers to propose. Powers to propose other issues, national policy on education, the Anglo-Saxon subsystem of education. Powers to propose to the central, to policy making, to the central authority with regard to the common law subsystem of justice, subsystem of justice. Power to create regional development, development organizations or development authorities, like Medino or like some of these things, as if there was any problem creating it. Those are the two main powers over the issues that this crisis started with, namely the educational system and the judicial system.
Yeah, but
they have been given powers to propose policies towards, or propose issues towards national policy as far as those sectors are concerned. So, which means that the central authority still has the final say It means that what the drama that we are doing, performing in the National Assembly and in the Parliament, in the Senate, will still obtain over the issues whereby it has been said the regional houses, the House of Chiefs and the regional House of Representatives, they have powers. They have powers to. You don't have power. Is not a power. You don't when you only have to propose for some other person to take a decision, a final decision over to make a policy over something. You cannot call that power. Is that power? That's not power, Mr. Leonard. That's not what they call power. Power is when you have the right to influence policy towards a particular direction of your choice. And that is what I say. People cry for omelette and they are served with a dish of prepared.
4 years.
I'm here too, as one of my reasons of coming to Douala was to go see about the victims of the explosion that I heard took place there at, is it Bipanda? Whereby the two people who were involved in whatever, they have passed on. But people who innocently left a meeting house to go visit them, hearing that a child of the village, a student, you cannot read the intentions of anybody. A student who was attending a meeting there is involved in an explosion. We never knew the caliber of nobody knew the caliber of the explosion. When the news came out, it was that a gas bottle has exploded, injuring or there's fire burnt in the house of that student, whereby he needs emergency assistance. So the meeting was holding, and when that news broke out, the meeting delegated some persons to go visit the victim and assess the situation and come back for small contributions to be made. In the hospital? In the hospital. As they reached there, the two persons who entered were never released. Were never allowed to go. They said they will use them for the first visitors of these patients. And it was alleged that what exploded was how do you call it, artisanal bomb. That was about being made. So that's the rumor that went out. So for that reason, they will use the people, the first visitors who came to carry out investigations. Yeah. And when they called me as their senator and as a lawyer, I said, no, it's okay. At least when something happens, like at least the first visitors, they will find out to know who are these people, to get information, either to link investigation towards the relations of these persons. One was Balikumbat, and I think I hear one was Bamali. And I say it's normal. At least 1 or 2 days, they will use them for investigation, take their coordinates and take their addresses, know where they are living and all, so that they can be called upon for additional information. They will 1 or 2 days, they will give furnished information that will help the investigators continue, and that will be over. But these are people, one of them is a vice principal of a college, Sacred College at New Bell. One is a family head and having a garage with apprentices under him. And they are all responsible people with belt houses here. They have been there for more than 2 weeks for having paid a visit to a student who was attending in a meeting house where they are president and vice. The people who have been locked up, they are the president of the meeting house and the vice for coming to see a situation which they heard was alarming. They are caught and locked up, and that it is said that they are assisting in investigation. But how do you punish somebody whom you count on to assist you in investigations? Okay, so I was there to know what is happening. Either they are accused or they are witnesses. And if they are witnesses helping, collaborating in investigation, they should not be treated as accused persons. They should be given their freedom to go and come at will, because they are assisting at the investigations. But then when you punish them as if they are accused persons, as if they took part in the explosion, you discourage people from soliciting information to help the state investigate crimes.
Yeah, but
that's not how under normal standard. That's not how they solicit assistance from people to investigate an offense. If you catch the person whose assistance you need and lock up without allowing him to communicate with his family.
Yep,
what I expect of him on the eve of a historic date like 11 February, and knowing exactly how this country came to be constructed to be what it is today, what I expected from a head of state is rather the State of the Union address. State of the Union address, where we examine how the distance we've covered, how far we have gone to build confidence in the plebiscite, because that's an event, there's a historic event that took place on a day like this, on 11 February. So he is supposed to address the nation on the state of the union. How far have we gone? What are the errors we have committed? How can we right those wrongs in order we can continue building a wonderfully solid, one and indivisible, truly one and indivisible nation? But we don't build a nation to be one and indivisible through slogans. We do policies because we don't mention words. If my history lessons happen correctly, and some of the facts which I lived, because I'm a post-independent, immediately post-independent child, Cameroonian, who was born immediately after independence. I lived some of the situations before they disappeared. What the Anglophone has suffered is that they have been sent backward to pre-independence scenario. That is, they have lost all what gave them confidence in themselves. These are people who have had, I ask questions. There are questions, a list of questions which I have filed at the Senate Secretariat for transmission to the relevant ministries to ask whether the Tico WAF that was there yesterday, saving Southern Cameroons, whereby banana was shipped to England. People used to enter ship there and go to England, where they used to anchor ships and they used to even do ship repairs there. Whether the people of Southwest, in particular, the people of Tico in particular, and Southwest and Northwest at large, they have gained anything by closing that Tico WAF or the Tico seaport and enforcing, reviving Douala or making Douala where they have to collect their goods. Have they made their lives better or they have made it worse off? I asked that question to the Minister of Transport. I asked whether the Tico International Airport that used to exist, which has now been ruined, whether by closing that airport and making it such that people who are from Tico or from Limbe or from Kumba, instead of landing at Tico International Airport that used to be, whether by landing in Douala now, they are better off than they were yesterday. Whether Powercam that used to generate electricity at Yoke, whether by dismantling the electricity installations there at Yoke Dam, at Moyoka there, and transferring it somewhere else, and killing that electricity supply, even for the Moyoka community alone, whether they have made the man in Moyoka better off than he would have been with the amount of watts that could be generated there and could take care of their local needs. Whether they have made the man of Moyoka better off than he was before independence. Those are the questions that I asked. I asked whether the Santa Coffee Estate that has been destroyed, by destroying it and transferring the equipment and whatsoever east of the Bongo, and taking it to marketing board to Douala and all whatnot, and later on it becomes inoperational. Whether they have made the Santa Man, or they have made the Northwestern better off without the Santa Coffee Estate than when they had it. Certainly the answer is negative. They have made the lives of the people of Northwest and Southwest worst off by dismantling those things. So that's what those are some of the genesis of the problems that we're having today. The answers to those questions are still awaited from the Minister of Transport whenever they'll be sent to him. To come and address the House and tell us whether this population, for what they are complaining about, whether the bank that we had, Cameroon Bank, which was a flourishing bank, which could give better loan than the one that obtained in the former East Cameroon, the people who used to benefit from loans from those banks are better off without that bank. Consider the Anglophone crisis. We used to say it has evolved from being a conflict to a crisis. It has become violent, and suffice it to say, we are under a war, semi-war situation. If I cannot describe it as a full-blown war, it's because we don't have military on both sides. We have a type of guerrilla warfare. That's why we cannot really describe it as we are in a wartime situation. But then, it requires that people should be cautious at every moment, because what the situation in which we find ourselves is not different from a wartime situation. Let's say the recent case of the killing of an ex-St. Louis Institute student at Ngomham. Already And as the news goes, forces entered. They were in pursuit of their brother. They entered their house, and they didn't see the brother who ran into the house. And they shot the sisters. One died, and one, I hear, is battling between life and death. You know, that type of situation. And I hear it's as a consequence of the killing of a military man. But you see, it is not allowed. It is just that we don't follow the basic rules, because under war situation, there are still rules to be followed. You see, civilian targets, civilian populated areas should be actually avoided. But you see the situation whereby the military is fighting a blind, or I can say fighting a ghost. But then that demands a lot of caution, because if not, you may destroy the golden hen that lays the golden egg, because the civilian population is what the military is out to protect. The ambas, the true ambas, let me distinguish between the true ambas are out to protect the same civilian population. The military, they are out to protect the same civilian population and their properties. You see, so both
they now find themselves in the crossfire.
In fact, that is the unfortunate thing. That's why I'm saying that it is actually the two forces, the protagonists. If they are not careful, they will destroy the golden hen that lays a golden egg. Because be it the military forces, this is the population they are out there. Golden hen here is a population that the military is called upon to protect. The ambas, they are fighting for the betterment of the Southern Cameroonians of yesteryears. And if they are destroying those who are incarnate that particular population they are fighting for, the particular area they are fighting for, call it Ambazonia. If they are jeopardizing the same people who will stand tomorrow to speak on behalf of that territory that they are fighting for, then it means that we are missing our targets at both, from looking at it from both ends. We are missing the target.
And with all these, the administration maintains that the situation is under control.
It cannot be. That's why we say I think it is high time in our country we try living by honesty. We try living by the truth. In fact, we have propagated falsehood. We have pretended for almost 50 years and above. We have been living a life of pretension in our country. Politics in Cameroonian context could be defined as a situation whereby people live by tricks, people live by deception of the population one way or the other. You see, in the Cameroonian context, but which is not supposed to be so. It has taken us nowhere. So it is high time we start living by the truth. The situation is under no control. The reason why the American delegation just left from here, this congressmen over there, the Senate congressmen who came here to represent the American government for a fact-finding mission. They could not go to Northwest, and they were told that they cannot guarantee their security. How can the situation be under control? Yet people came for a fact-finding mission, and they were given the one side of the story. They wanted to go and visit the locals and make another side of the story for themselves, and they could not be allowed to go on that for reasons of insecurity. It means that we are not sure of the situation. The situation is under no control. People are fast to think that if we were to move out of the House of Parliament, the way our leaders in the Southern Cameroons of yesteryears moved out of the Eastern House of Assembly in Nigeria, that could actually work the miracle, could actually bring the Anglophone crisis to an end. But suffice it to say, I want to distinguish the Nigerian situation, Nigerian scenario with the Cameroonian scenario. In Nigeria, remember, the Southern Cameroonians have never been Nigerians. Their constitutional provision has never made them Nigerians. We have never been considered constitutionally in the Nigerian as Nigerians. So why the Constitution made a special provision for us and took into consideration the fact that we were aliens. We were people who have just been administratively, for convenience of the colonial master, been attached to them. So they have never at any single moment laid claim over us as part of Nigerian community. That is the reason for which we must always distinguish that. And then what happened? The decision was unanimous because everybody was actually saw in the same light, and everybody was influenced by what was on the ground. You see, and we knew that as a whole, even with the leaders alike, there have never been any intention of the Nigerian government to appropriate even the leaders of the Southern Cameroons of yesteryears into the Nigerian polity. You get the point? So that is a different scenario. So it was easy for us to extricate ourselves from Nigeria because we have never been Nigerians. And the Constitution recognized us as non-Nigerians. Even the laws that were applicable to us were not the same laws that were applicable to the rest of the Nigerians. So that's why we moved out and carried out self-governance for some time before we were given this option of independence by joining La Republique or Nigeria. I will even beg to even say that Southern Cameroonians never even had a choice, because you could not be voting, you could not be asked to vote to go back to where you had left. You had left because of disgust, because you were disgruntled. You couldn't be asked again to vote to get there, to have independence by joining the same people whom you had voluntarily left. And then secondly, you were asked to vote to have independence by joining the hitherto La République du Cameroun. That La République du Cameroun voted against your own independence, because you know Southern Cameroon's independence was voted for in the UN, and actually the vote was in favor of Southern Cameroon having independence. But then how they were to accede to that independence now, that is why the plebiscite this thing was conducted on the 11th of February 1961. And to vote to join again La République du Cameroun that had voted against Southern Cameroon's independence. In fact, it was like taking you to give to somebody who has not recognized your personality as an individual. So in fact, the Southern Cameroon had no choice. But then, having voted now to have independence by joining La République, they just did what they had voted for. They voted against our independence, so they didn't see us as people who are qualified to have independence. That is the reason for which they now embarked on a process to get our independence annihilated, get our independence completely cancelled. Even immediately they got us on their side, they declared whatever vote for independence to have been null and void. That is just like getting part of Cameroon that was out back into Cameroon, and that's why they went now on this progressive and logical process of integration, of getting us integrated to an extent whereby we will never again envisage where we came from.
Beside the fact that the third option was
is that they don't want the issue to be revisited. They don't want history to be revisited. They are logical. It is us who are not understanding. Let me just tell you what, Mr. Babila Jonathan. It is we, the Southern Cameroonians of yesteryears, who are not understanding the system, who find it difficult to understand the system. The system has been going on logically on their path. And their path is that what? That there is no problem. That they have defined that there is no Anglophone problem, or that there is no problem at all. That they have defined a path whereby we have to go in order one day we become so uniform, we become so integrated that there will be no need to talk about Anglophone, Francophone anymore. That they have changed the definition of Anglophone. Instead of an Anglophone being the historical Southern Cameroonian, because of the fact that they are sending their children to study in English, they have changed the definition of an Anglophone now in Cameroon to mean somebody who has studied in English. That's why you could see somebody say, Francophone say that I have an Anglophone in my house, meaning that he has one of his children who is studying in English, or who is going to Anglophone schools. So that's an Anglophone to him. And then they describe the Northwest and Southwest not as Anglophone regions, or not as English-speaking regions. They say predominantly English-speaking regions. So you see, they don't have it in their mind, in their mindset, that anything historical should be revisited. They don't have in their mindset that anything historical should be revisited. And that is why they are not prepared to take the issue to the table. Because they know that they take the issue to the table, we are going to go historical. And once we go historical, we knock it off. We knock them off. So that's why they are not prepared to have history revisited. They want to continue. But unfortunately, they have to continue only by force now. That they want to continue in their logical mindset to get Cameroon become uniform, become so integrated that there will be no distinction tomorrow between who an Anglophone is, who a Francophone is. But then, unfortunately, as history will have it, people will always identify themselves with their origin. People will always be attached to their history, to how they came about.
You see,
short. It is like you know that somebody has malaria. Malaria has got many symptoms, headache, body pains, and all whatnot. And instead of you prescribing malaria treatment, which will treat all the symptoms that are portraying themselves, you take headache and you give Doliprane, or you look when you say he's having body pains, you go and give him maybe Valium to sleep and all whatnot. You are treating symptoms of a disease, of which if you treat the disease itself, all those symptoms will disappear. But what the government is doing, what the government has been doing since 2016, is to deny the existence of the Anglophone problem as perceived by the indigenous Anglophone, or people who call themselves Ambazonians. They don't want to perceive the problem under the mindset, as per the mindset of the Southern Cameroonian, as per the mindset of the present day, or how they are calling themselves, Ambazonians. They don't want to perceive the problem in that light, of which that is the truth. That is the only true avenue to perceive the problem in the way, because they are the ones feeling the pains. They are the ones who are concerned, and they want the problem to be looked upon in this manner, so that they cannot complain any longer. Let me tell you what, if they say now that they have even changing positions to say you can discuss everything about the form of state, but without talking about separation. It tells you, let me tell you, the federation they have in mind is not the federation that will put Northwest and Southwest together under one state. No way. Is the federation they have in mind is a federation, if you give them the chance to go ahead with it, is to put Northwest and Western region as a state, put Littoral and Southwest as a state. That is what they want, in order they can continue with their stubborn policy, stubborn and persistent policy of national integration, of uniformity, of making sure that one day, no, there will be no divide between Anglophones and Francophones. One day they can annihilate the colonial history, of which they jealously, let me just say they, in terms of the hitherto La République du Cameroun, they jealously follow the Francophone spirit. They are attached to more and more. In fact, most of the government policy is tilted towards more towards la Francophonie than Commonwealth. In all the institutions that we have got, in all their banking, financial matters, in all their friends all over the world. In fact, they just get to the Anglo-Saxon world by an afterthought. That is actually, they are following the mindset of their colonial masters of yesteryears, but they don't want the Anglophone to follow the colonial mindset of the Anglo-Saxon culture, which goes the same way as they have logically met it from the beginning, that we don't deserve independence. We don't deserve to go our own way. We don't deserve to manage our things the way we want to manage it. That we came and as an annexure to their independent state, so we cannot dictate the pace. That this issue about two states was actually it was only in our imagination, and that's why they were fast to destroy the two-state phenomenon and bring it to one.
Are you saying that
lessons, but it seems not to have taught the people who govern us much lessons, a lot of lessons. You see that the people, when they are firm in their desire towards living a particular lifestyle, there's nothing you can do about it. You can panel beat them, do whatever you would do. You end up accepting the way they want to live their lives.
Now there's another new twist coming into efforts to restore normalcy in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, the creation of vigilante committees, notably in the town of Kumba in the southwest region of the country. And information at our disposal indicates that they have received support, material and financial support from government.
That is corruption, Mr. Babila. In fact, that is just corrupt. They're just corrupting the people whom they have seen corruptible.
Can the vigilante committees produce anything?
It cannot solve the Anglophone crisis. It could work in the extreme north with regard to Boko Haram. And that is a mistake we are making. We are trying to now blend, because the disarmament committee that I've created is to disarm both the Boko Haram and the Amba fighters. It cannot work. We cannot bundle up. We cannot look at those crises as Cameroonian crises and liken them and look at them as the same. No, no. What can work up there at the Boko Haram in extreme north cannot work with the Anglophone crisis. Boko Haram, we are fighting foreign international criminals or international crime at across our borders. But with the Southern Cameroon's case, or with the Ambazonian case, or the Anglophone crisis, as you want to call it, in fact, we are fighting with people who know us, who have been living with us, and people who are all Cameroonians. You see, up there in the vigilante, because they are prepared, they don't even know who are the Boko Haram people. They come from across the borders, attack and go back into their hiding spots. They don't even know them. They are out to destabilize, and they have their modus operandi, which is to destroy Western education, as we have made to understand. They have a different agenda, which runs contrary to the mindset of the people of those regions in the north, the extreme north. They carry. Their mindset is different from those of the Boko Haram. But down there in the Anglophone, in Kumba, or in Anglophone regions, the mindset of those people fighting, the Amba fighters, and the population, their mindsets are almost the same. They may differ in terms of approach to handling the problems that they have as a common problem. But then the population have sympathy for them. So how do you buy over part of the population that are suffering the same crisis to report their brothers who are fighting the same crisis? You know, they may differ. The fact that they differ in their approaches, that one person may be out to get the problem solved in a peaceful means, and then the other person has taken up arms, of which arms taking was not by their desire. They were pushed to the wall and they took up arms. But then that is what they have taken now as an option. You cannot say, because of the fact that one is taking up arms and the other one is going peacefully, they are at variance. No. They are at variance to an extent whereby one can kill the other, or one can expose the other to death. No, it cannot be possible. And a vigilante a vigilante committee member cannot, if he's an indigent, cannot report his brother who is in the bush for him to be killed. Honestly speaking, the government must realize that and stop wasting the taxpayers' money. They must realize that, except they have brought people from elsewhere, from other regions, who are now going to man those vigilante groups. Then they can now report the Amba fighters. But if the vigilante group members are indigenous sons and daughters of the area, and then the people who are fighting in the bushes, they are sons and daughters of the same area with whom they speak and understand easily, there is no way by which one can report the other. They are just trying to corrupt a handful of people, or to encourage people to come towards their side by corruption, rather than trying to change the mindset, trying to solve the problem and change the mindset of the people fighting.
Let's come back to what has been qualified as an emotional outburst of Senator KEMENDE in March this year in the upper house of Parliament. That falls within the context of efforts of the Social Democratic Front, both in the lower and the upper houses of Parliament, to ignite a major action that will start solving the Anglophone crisis from the Parliament. You were somehow rebuked by some of your colleagues, notably those who were from the ruling CPDM political party. How can we understand that? Why will your colleagues attempt to stop you because of what you were saying concerning the Anglophone crisis?
In fact, the minister who came later on and attempted an answer to my questions, I can say he is more mature, the Minister of Mines, Industry and Technological Development, who came after my intervention to attempt an answer to my questions. I doff my hat to that minister. He is more responsible, he is more composed, he is more liberal, he is more democratic than some of my senator colleagues. You see, because it is hard to imagine, even if we are in a parliamentary democracy, it is hard to imagine that somebody who has been put in an office to represent the people should stop another person from bringing out the problems of his people, from talking about the crisis that is affecting his people. The utmost he could have done was just to listen and maybe ask to take the floor and reply or give his own opinion, and then by so doing we'll be discussing the crisis. And that is what it means by living together. Because you would not say that because the toe is a very small part of the body, when it's paining, the entire body cannot feel the pain. It is not true. In fact, my colleagues who tried to interrupt, who interrupted me on the floor, could have listened to say, what? Is that what is happening? We have not known about the truth. This is a senator telling us the truth on the floor. Because I was not saying things that were hearsay. I was saying things that I have lived and things that I have evidence to back them up. A senator and a lawyer does not speak in the air. I was saying things that I could adduce evidence to substantiate. So for a senator to have left his seat, even if he was asked by the president, I don't know whether he has become the Otley of the House, or he has become one of the persons who is called upon to maintain discipline in the House, to have left his seat where he's representing his people of the East region, and the Cameroonian nation from the East region, in particular, Cameroonians from the East region, to come and obstruct another person representing Cameroonians of the Northwest region represent Cameroonians of the Northwest region from expounding on the plight of his people. And it was actually obnoxious. It was actually a behavior which was corrected by the minister anyway. The minister came and even attempted an answer to that situation, which was not even a question. It was an observation I was making. He came and attempted an answer to it with a very cold head, which means he taught the senators who disrupted me a lesson of their lives, that I am more qualified to be a senator, to be a parliamentarian than some of you. That was unfortunate. After that, this session, I wrote a petition to the president, petitioning that conduct of my colleagues who disturbed me who interrupted my speech.
Received any response?
I'm waiting for a response to it, without which I will not end it here. I will take it further to places where Cameroon holds its head high as a country that practices parliamentary democracy. I will bring it to their knowledge that we don't practice parliamentary democracy in Cameroon.
No, why has